Fishing Gurus is brought to you in association with Daiwa.
Hello and welcome to Fishing Gurus. My name's Dean Macey and we're here at Makins Fishery in Warwickshire for a show that's got a slight twist to it. We're going to be following one of the best all-round mash anglers in the country, Steve Ringutt, through a live match with no special dispensation. The draw's the draw, and at the end of the day, the result is the result. But they do say that 10% of anglers catch 90% of the fish, and Steve, you are definitely in that 10%. And I've got to be honest with you, credit where credit's due. You've put your reputation on the line a little bit as well, haven't you, today?
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit nervous. I know it's not a big match, but there's 10 or 12 anglers down there all wanting to beat me on telly, so I'm going to have to beat my best.
And they're all local experts as well, so they know the venue. So do you. You've had to walk around. Any areas that you fancy?
Yeah, we're on Lake 2, A20s. You know, I've never drawn it, but I've always wanted to draw it.
Today might be the day.
It's won more matches than any other peg. A8. To be honest, I'd take anywhere on the A bank. There's two banks, A and B. The B bank's can be a bit dodgy, but the A bank's where I want to be.
The thing is, with a match angler, you're not always going to draw the golden peg, if you like, but you've got to get the best out of the situation, because at the end of the day, it's a day's fishing.
Yeah, the good thing is today we'll have a bit of room. We've got the whole lake, so we'll have a few blank pegs either side, so there's a chance of some margin sport later on. So what might seem like a no-hoper could still come good.
Well, the draw's going to take place in a few minutes, mate, so I'm going to shake your hand, wish you the very best of luck, show us some of that magic.
Cheers, thank you.
Steve, A15. How's it?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's close. Yeah. It'll probably be the next peg to A20. So.
What sort of method are you going to be using?
Method to the island, pellet wag, and then I've got a lovely margin to my right, so there's a chance for some beast later on.
Good man. Right, I wish you luck. Get your gear around there. So Steve, 3 rods and a pole set up, but we'll talk about the methods later. Let's talk about the bait first, because there's a pellet restriction in this match, but you've got corn and luncheon meat as well, 2 staple diets for most commercial fisheries.
Yeah, start with pellets.
Right.
I've got some wetted down 3 mil with a few 1 mil pellets mixed in.
Right, okay.
Then I'm going to be putting around the method, casting tight across to the island.
Okay.
That's going to be my opening gambit, so I'm just going to be using them with maybe a 6 or an 8 mil on the hook.
Okay.
And then I'm going to feed a wagler and bomb line with the hard 8 mils.
Right. Now you're off the back of the wind as well. Does that
should help me?
Well?
Yeah, I can fire them a bit further. There's a boom runs out to the right of my peg,
right,
and I'm going to feed these just off the edge of that boom, just little and often, to try and either catch on the bomb on the bottom, or if I'm going to catch a big weight, hopefully it'll be on the wagler. Right. So 3 or 4, keep feeding it. Hopefully a couple of hours I'll drop on it and they'll be there.
Brilliant. What about the corn and the luncheon meat? Is that for down the edge?
Yeah, it is. Oh, it's a 6-hour match today. I've got a really nice margin to my right. It's got
actually, haven't you? Loads of rushes.
It's got a bit of form in the past, so with about 3 hours to go, we should put a couple of big pots of meat and corn mixed together in, and then just leave it and just keep an eye on it, so to speak. There's a few rushes there. If I start to see them move, then hopefully I'll be able to drop on it.
No pellet down the edge?
No, I'm going to stick with meat and corn. I'm looking to catch big fish, 8, 10, 12, maybe even bigger fish down that edge. But it'll be a feast or famine line. So 3 big pots, halfway through, and then we'll see where we go.
Superb. Well, we haven't got long to go before kick-off, so I'm going to let you finish your setting up. Looks fantastic, mate. I'm not going to build up your chances too far yet, but good luck.
Cheers.
Oh, Steve, we're what, half an hour into the match. I've got to be honest, I don't think your tip's sat still yet.
No, it's been an unbelievable start. I reckon I've probably got 4 or 5 fish for around £20 in the net already.
Really?
This is a small fish again, but I'm getting regular bites, which is what I want at this stage.
One thing I've noticed is the speed, accuracy and the efficiency of everything you're doing, and I guess that's down to preparation.
Yeah, I always say when you're match fishing, it's a bream.
Oh, it's a nice bream, mate.
The busier you are, the more you catch. So, like, I'm trying to maximise the amount of time I'm in the water.
Yeah.
So I'm fishing the method, obviously, with pellets round it at the minute, tight to the island. But what I'm doing is, while I'm waiting for bites, I'm making other feeders up.
Well, so you're making feeders up, you're spraying for your pellet wagler line, you haven't fed down the inside yet. Obviously, we're walking up and down, completely ruining that line for you at the moment. But how many feeders have you got made up?
I've got 3 on the go, but the way it's going, I think I'm going to start a 4th. But all I'm doing is making them up in advance, so it's a case of removing the cap.
Double overhand loop there on the end of the line.
All fingers and thumbs.
Well, it's all shaky, innit? Because in truth, we said at the start, you've put your reputation on the line for this.
Remove the clip, so you just got your loop.
That's it.
Around here on my bait tray, I've got another feeder ready made.
Right.
Through the loop, clipped on, cap down.
Nice one.
Give it another squeeze just to make sure it's on proper.
And that goes straight up. I mean, you've been talking to us, and that's out of the water for 90 seconds.
Yeah.
How much preparation time away from the bank, though, do you put in?
Hell of a lot. Even for, like, although this isn't a big match today, it's still, like, it's a match, and obviously my reputation's on the line with the canvas being here. It's not my best cast. So, like yesterday, I probably spent 3.5, 4 hours.
Really?
Tying hooks, preparing rigs, respooling my reels. You know, I mean, you've got to be bang on it. There's a lot of good anglers nowadays.
Yeah. And
everyone wants a shot at you. So even on little matches like this, I still want to be top of my game.
Yeah, because I mean, you get a couple of hours when you turn up to sort your gear out, but I mean, it's far from turn up and wing it, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't do it. If, like, there's some posts in the water, there's a few snags. If I hook a fish and it takes everything around one of those posts or something, I need to be back in the water, and that's where the preparation comes in. It's no good going up the bank, spending 20 minutes retackling up. That's 20 minutes where you can't catch a fish.
Yeah.
So it's a case of get another feeder that's ready, get it back out there, and you're fishing.
Well, you've had a few liners, and that's been in the water for only a few seconds, so I'll leave you to it, mate. I don't want to take up too much time because, you know, this is not a massive match, but it's still very, very important for you. So good luck, great start. Let's hope it continues.
Cheers, Dean. Right, we're about an hour in, just had this nice common, probably 4.5, £5. I reckon I got £35 in the net. It is slowing up a bit, but by constant chucking, I'm still able to keep building that swim, and I'm hoping to stay on the method for another hour, then maybe switch to that wagler bomb just to keep myself ticking over. Let's get this one in the net and see if we can get a few more.
Well, Steve, you went a bit slow on the feeder line right up to the tight to the island, but I noticed you've got a float hanging on the end at the moment.
Yeah, it's just about, I'm sort of chopping and changing. We're getting into the middle period of the match.
Yeah, you said it was going to be about a little bit slow this sort of time.
Yeah, on the 90-minute mark, the sort of far lines died where I'm chucking the method tight across. I've had the last 3 fish have all been small skimmers, which is never a good sign. So I've been priming that line just on the second post for the wag. I think I've had like 4 casts, and just as I was about to twitch it, then it's buried. So any fish now are what I call a bonus.
Yeah, and the pellet, I don't know why, but the pellet wagler up in the water does tend to produce bigger fish as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, this doesn't feel a massive fish, but it's not a tiny one either. But normally once you get one on the wag, you can get a few. So I'm quite hopeful that by feeding like just 3 or 4 hard pellets on a virtually constant basis, working the float, if I can catch 5 or 6 fish on this in the next sort of hour and a half, I'm still going to be well up there.
What sort of depth of water you got out there?
Got about 6 foot, and I've started sort of 2.5 foot deep.
Is that normally what you do? Sort of start in the top half, sort of 2/3, something like that?
I normally try and start just above halfway.
Right.
And then if I start getting indications or I foul hook a couple of fish, then I'll come higher.
Right, that does look like a good fish.
It's all about sort of working the depth to try and find what level the fish want to be at.
Right, and if you didn't get a bite in the first 5, 6, because you said to me you're only going to go on this for about 10 minutes, what would you do? Throw a lead over the top?
Yeah, I was going to give it 5 minutes if I hadn't had an indication or a bite.
Good man.
It's a nice fish.
Need a bigger net, mate.
An indication or a nice fish, or a fish, then I was going to chuck the bomb over and just see if I could get any line bites.
Superb. Well, you said about bonus fish, if you could get a couple in the next hour, mate, that looks more than a bonus fish. Certainly 2 or 3 of the other ones you was getting on the feeder.
Yeah, that's sort of £6–7. That's the sort of stamp I'm looking to catch if we're going to get up towards that £100 mark.
Right, well, I'll tell you what, while you've got the rig out, we've got a couple of minutes, still got a couple of hours left of the match. Talk us very quickly through the pellet waggler setup.
Right, I've got a really simple setup.
Right.
Just feed myself a bit of slack. You got your waggler, got it running between 2 rubber stops.
Right, okay. And why do you actually fish them sort of 4 or 5 inches apart?
The reason is so I'm not striking through the float. So when the float goes under, I'm direct on the fish.
Right.
So it's running between the 2 stops on a twizzled loop.
Right.
That just gives it a bit of reinforcement when that float's banging around. So I'm not going to get any breakages.
Good. Nice.
So when I strike, that float's going to collapse, and I'm direct on the fish, not having to strike through the weight of the float.
Gotcha. Right.
Before I contact it. Then I've got my hook length. So I'm fishing about 2.5 foot, maybe a little bit deeper than that, 2.5 foot deep.
Right.
Size 18 pellet waggler hook.
Right, tiny little hook there.
Yeah, little tiny bait band.
But a wide gate though.
Yeah, the pellet waggler hooks are the wide gate out-turned eye, so everything hangs nice and straight. Perfect. And then an 8mm pellet.
Right, we'll stick that on for us, let's see how it sits, and then we'll let you get it back out. I suppose one of the most important things when you're pellet waggler fishing is actually the feeding.
Yeah, it is, little and often. I always say, unless you're casting, twitching or playing a fish, you shouldn't have put the catapult down. Right. So there you can see the 8mm just mounted on the hook, nice and tidy. So it's just sitting off the back of the hook.
Well, you've had the pellet waggler out for, what, 2 minutes, but you've had the catapult down for about 2 minutes as well. So I suggest you get feeding, you get back out there, and I'll leave you to it. Well done, mate.
There we go, second fish on the wag, a lovely ghosty about £12. Normally the wag does produce bigger fish and a few more like that, and I won't be far off from winning. Just hope this rain's going to hold off and keep the fish feeding up in the water. Let's get them in the net.
Well, we're halfway through the match, and if you're Steve Ringer, it's so far so good. The flat method started him off really well, and even though the weather seems to be closing in around him, the pellet waggler seems to be fishing really well too. So, is he going to keep it going? Is he going to put a foot wrong? Join us in a few minutes to find out.
Fishing Gurus is brought to you in association with Daiwa.
Welcome back. In the first half, Steve showed us why his reputation for being one of the best all-round match anglers in the country is well earned, because he got off to an absolute flying start. But there are other anglers in this match, and with 2 hours to go, it's anybody's game. Well, Steve, it's heart in the mouth stuff, isn't it, when you hook them on that pellet waggler, because they're quite close to quite a big snag over there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a big wood and a big metal post in the water, and if they get touch that metal post, your hook length's gone.
Yeah, I've seen you have to re-tackle a couple of times. Good fish, this one, though, yeah?
Feels decent, yeah. It's the first fish I've had a pretty quiet spell. Yeah. I managed to nick one down the edge where I'd potted in my meat and corn, but that's the only indication I've had.
Yeah, we saw that. I mean, how long would you give it down the edge before you actually sort of pulled away from it if they weren't
It's
there?
important not to waste time. You can get one like, I fed my 3 pots with 2 hours to go. Right. And then with 30 minutes after that, I put another full pot in. Then I always put one in 5 minutes before I want to fish it.
Right, okay. And is that sort of ritual that you always go through regardless of the venues? Because one thing I want to try and touch on today is, I mean, you're in the top 10% of anglers in the country that basically catch 90% of the fish, and most anglers are sort of, you know, they very rarely get the very best out of their swims like you guys do, and that X factor is something that goes on in your head. Most people just can't explain, but I want you to try and explain what makes you make the decisions, and the same decisions all the time, that generally pay off.
It's trying to work out, you know, I mean, if we take the margin line as an example, yeah. Obviously I'm not fishing it, so I don't know what's been eaten. So the way I look at it is, if I top it up with 5 minutes before I'm going to go on it, right, there's definitely going to be some bait down there. Right. And the thing with margins is you can't overfeed it. And I think, you know, I mean, going back to the X factor, it's just working hard. It's like on this waggler line, I've been up in and down in with the depths. I've varied my feeding. Like 1 minute I'm feeding 3 or 4, and then having 5 minutes really feeding heavy. Yeah. Just trying to make something happen.
And it's being able to read what's happening as well, isn't it? Because earlier on you were saying that actually the bites were coming to the waggler when it was sat there stationary and then flicking a few baits over the top. And now I've noticed recently you've become a lot more active with the sort of twitching it back and then recasting it every couple of minutes. Yeah,
it's because nothing's happening. It's like I said, too many anglers are guilty of like waiting for something to happen. And on commercial waters, there's a lot of fish, and I always say you've got to make it happen, and that's what I've been trying to. In the quiet spells, my attitude is the fish are still there, but I've got to change something so they have it properly.
Yeah. So as soon as your flat method over to the far side went a little bit quiet, that's when you decided to go from plan A to plan B, which is the pellet waggler. As soon as that started to go a little bit quiet, you started to give that a rest, even though you kept feeding it, and go down the edge. And then when the edge only produced one fish and then went quiet, you went back on one of the other lines.
Yeah, I'm looking for a line that's going to catch me a number of fish, not just one.
Right.
And that's why I'm chopping and changing, and that's why it's so important. It's like through the middle of the match, I had a brilliant spell on the waggler.
Yeah, you did. And I'll tell you what, the weather was awful as well, didn't you? You said as long as the rain stays away, we'll do all right. But actually, when the rain came, the bites came.
But it would have been easy in that spell to sort of forget the margins and think, right, I'm just going to win the match now, fishing the waggler. Well,
I've got to be honest, when that rain came, and no disrespect to anyone else, but you was the only one that kept working your swim all the way through the terrible conditions, because everyone was mentioning in the crew that most other people sort of just huddled up and sat there, because it was nasty, let's face it.
Yeah, it's unusual to catch. You know, I mean, when the rain started, my first thought was, this is going to kill the waggler, but I'd probably 7 or 8 fish in half an hour.
Yeah.
And that was my best spell of the match. But like, all the time, I'm always conscious, I'm always trying to think one step ahead. So like, I'm thinking, when that waggler line dies, where am I going to go next?
Yeah.
Is it going to be on the method? Is it going to be down the edge? Or I'm going to drop the bomb over the pellet line?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm keeping an eye on other anglers and just trying to plan. I'm always trying to plan like an hour ahead of what I'm actually fishing.
Yeah, see, earlier on you said don't overcomplicate things, but always give yourself somewhere to go.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, you've got to give yourself options, and I think that's the biggest problem a lot of anglers have. They just don't give themselves enough options. If they do start catching, they get sort of carried away with catching on one line, neglect other lines, and then with an hour to go, because the last hour tends to be the most important.
Yeah.
That's when the big fish come in, and more matches are won and lost in the last hour than any other period.
Well, I tell you what, you are literally 15 seconds away from being in the last hour. And traditionally, the last hour is when you
come
go,
off that fish.
No. See, highs and lows. Highs and lows,
yeah.
We all lose them, guys. but traditionally, the last hour is when you start going down the edge and looking for the bigger and better fish.
Yeah, well, I need a line now that's going to catch me probably 5 proper fish in this last hour.
Right.
Because I've had a good sort of 4 hours. I've had a bad last hour, but a good 4 hours before that. Now I'm looking for that one line that's going to catch me perhaps them 5 fish that are just going to get me over the finishing line. There we go. Now that's a proper fish. I reckon that's best part 14, 15 pound. Right, I've got 15 minutes to go now. I've just had 5 or 6 minutes down the edge, but other than one sign and a bow wave out the swim, nothing else. It's important at this stage not to waste time down there. I'll put another full pot in, straight back on the wag, fish first chuck. You know, in a little bit of a rest I've given the waggler line's done that good. We've got a nice ghosty, so all being well, one more fish on the wag and then finish with a Barney rubble down the edge on the pole just to put the icing on the cake.
I think you've done a piece of camera about 5-6 minutes ago or something and said, all I'm going to do is nick one more fish on the pellet waggler and hopefully go down the edge for a Barney rubble. Well, by the looks of things, that is definitely a Barney rubble. That has got a big head to it as well.
Beautiful ghosty.
It's a stunning looking fish, mate.
There we go.
Oh, you need a bigger net, mate.
There we go.
I'll give you the first round of applause of the day because, well, look at that. We finish at 5. By my watch, it's 2 or 3 minutes past. The whistle hasn't gone yet, and that is the best fish of the day. Yeah. That is absolutely stunning.
It doesn't get no better than that.
Well, it doesn't, mate, but
Let's just hold him up, because I don't think there's going to be time for another one.
No, well, in truth, with the fish you've caught, I think it's pretty safe. It might, you know, I don't want to speak too soon, but I think it's in the bag, but that is an absolute belter, mate.
Really long. There we go. Brilliant way to finish the day.
Right, in first place, Steve Ringer with £169, 14 ounces from peg A15. Well done,
Cheers,
Steve.
Cheers from you.
Well, it's been an absolute masterclass today by this young man. Steve, we said at the start of the day you might be putting your reputation at risk, but I've got to be honest with you, I don't think you've done it any harm whatsoever. £169.14, your biggest ever weight off of the venue, and what a day to do it on.
Yeah, I've had a perfect match. I got the peg to start with, I had a plan, started on the method, that was brilliant. Nice start, first hour and a half, dropped on the wagler, caught some fish like this one, and finished with the icing on the cake down the edge.
All three of them worked. Yeah, that's the key though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and obviously I've kept feeding each line, kept prepping them, and then got the rewards.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on the bank with you again, and it's been an absolute pleasure to watch you at your best. That's it for this episode of Fishing Gurus. Don't forget to tune in to the next one, but between now and then, enjoy your fishing.
Fishing Gurus is brought to you in association with Daiwa.